All right, now before we jump into it, I do want to put out a few disclaimers. First and foremost, we're going to be reacting, analyzing, and dissecting the new Wuthering Waves trailer technical test because I have seen some very interesting things here that I want to talk and discuss with you guys. Now, of course, this is going to be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I advise clicking off the video today. I do truly appreciate your support. I'll see you in the next one. Secondly, a massive shout out to Phantom Locks for providing this video. I'll leave a link to their channel down in the description below. Go ahead and sub to their channel, show them some support. I do truly appreciate it. And secondly, I know I mentioned that I was not going to be doing this, but I figured it's out there already. I'm just giving my analysis and opinion on it. And I had a few people comment in my last video stating that Kuro Games usually doesn't mind things like this. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a chance. And if anything in terms of repercussions happen from it, then I know not to do it moving forward. So with that being said, we're going to jump straight into it. And remember that this is all just my opinions and none of this is actually confirmed until Wuthering Waves and Kuro Games confirms it themselves. But let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Now, we'll be pausing like usual with most of my videos that I break down. I'll be pausing and slowing it down also. And I want to get your guys' thoughts and opinions down in the comments below as well. Let me know what you think about everything if you've seen this or if you're watching this video and you want to give your opinions down below. Now, the very first scene that we have here is this figure. Now, this figure is going to be extremely important. You'll see why here in just a second. We have this crow or raven, and we have this ring and this lettering. Now, the significance of this scene is one, the figure, of course, two, the crow, but really this ring has me intrigued. We'll get into that more here in just a second. And the lettering here, now of course you can't tell what it says and the resolution is not that great even though I have it at 1080p, but it looks very similar like what we see on other characters in the game. But keep an eye on this ring, this figure, the crow. Let's move on. Now this next scene is very interesting because we have this light that we've seen before in the original trailer for Wuthering Waves. This light seems to be pretty significant, and then you see the crack in the ground. I'm assuming it's the ground, and you can see that if you look closely it looks like the Wuthering Waves symbol or logo, but it looks like sound waves, and we've seen that multiple times in many different areas surrounding this game. And this crack right here, what I'm theorizing is that this is the center or the beginning of the lament or the bad things happening to wherever area that these creatures come from. So I believe this is just the beginning of that happening. Now in this scene, you can see the light now starting to form. It looks like it's almost like seeping out into the atmosphere or into the sky. And this could be, now this is once again just my theory, my opinion, I could be wrong, but this appears to be the light that goes up into the sky, and this may be what actually turns the sky into that water waves that we see in the trailer and in the gameplay. It looks like waves. This may be the thing that does that, but I'm not too sure. And then we have the materialization of this black stone. Now this black stone initially in my previous video I thought was either good or bad just depending on how you use it, but now I'm starting to think with this trailer that this black stone is purely bad news. I think this black stone is what allows the creatures or the enemies to be able to come to the world, but gives them their abilities and their powers, or turns the people that live on that world into those creatures or those enemies. And I've talked about my theory on the enemies being what was the individuals that were there on the world before just turned into those creatures. But let's go ahead and move forward here a little bit more so you can see the black stone materializing here. And the reason why I say that is because if we flip over to here, so this is from the Wuthering Waves official website. When you first go on their site teaser, and they have this blackstone here, and it says Blackstone Energy Source Rebirth. So the energy source is what I believe we saw emanating from the ground with that light glowing going up, and I believe that is what made this blackstone, and I believe this blackstone is the energy source to drive everything that's happening with the lament, turning the world essentially upside down and in a disarray and creating that corrosion and turmoil. I believe what drives all of that and the enemies is this black stone. I believe it's the energy source, and it says rebirth. Initially I thought rebirth meant, you know, making the world anew after, you know, defeating the enemies, but I now believe that the rebirth is referring to the enemies going into different worlds and rebirthing themselves there and taking over in a sense. Once again, could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. And then if you go a little bit further, it states reverberation, abnormal abilities, and evolution. This is important because reverberation is really referring to sound waves, waves reverberating. Then we have abnormal abilities. This is where I believe they're referring to the enemies. The enemies having abnormal abilities and displaying that when they're fighting us. But I think that also may mean our characters that we use as well have some abnormal abilities in a good way though. And then evolution. Evolution I think is referring to turning into those enemies. I think the enemies can take people that live there and turn them into themselves using the reverberation and the sound waves. I've talked about that in length before as well. But another thing that we'll get to here in the new trailer is that I believe if you receive too much of those reverberations, too much of those sound waves or wuthering waves, you yourself start to evolve, develop abnormal abilities, but evolve into the enemies if you receive too much of it. And it can be a bad thing to stay there too long or to get too many wuthering waves. I talked about that before as well. So I think the Black Stone is the epitome, the driver for everything that we're seeing in reference to the enemies. But let's go back to the technical test trailer. Right after the Black Stone appeared, all of a sudden now this world is turning into a wasteland. An apocalypse happens here, right? And then we see this scene right here. So obviously that's the enemy, and these are the people that they went ahead and pretty much took over. But this symbol is extremely important here, and the reason why is because you see this symbol on a lot of our characters that we have in the game of Wuthering Waves so far that we can see. Let me show you. So if you take a close look at our MCs or our main characters here, you can see a very similar symbol right here on that little pocket. And then if we move over to the female MC, you can see that very similar symbol. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same, but it looks extremely similar right there. So that's why I'm not sure if they're a part of some faction or if this is the world from the MCs are from, like I mentioned before in a previous video, but this symbol seems to be important. I'm just not too sure exactly what it's referencing. Now, if we move on from there, we can see the enemies, and I've talked about this before as well, but you can see the enemies have the symbols that you can see on Yan Yan and a couple of other characters that have been shown as well. A lot of the characters that we have in Wuthering Waves that will probably be playable have this symbol. So I've mentioned this before, but this symbol is extremely important, and these enemies look pretty vicious. They look great. Now, we've seen this character multiple times. You've seen it at the end of the gameplay. There's been some leak images of it, but we have this character right here, absolutely adorable. But you can see in this scene, so this is all right after. You have to keep in mind, and I'll bring it back for you. So we have the black energy of the Black Stone that appears. After the Black Stone appears, chaos happens. Right, and this is where I believe that pink-haired girl is from. I believe that was her home or where she was from. The enemies come, they destroy everything, they kill everybody, and all that's left is the pink-haired girl. And I think this is where we find her. This, I'm not too sure if this is the enemy or if this is the Wuthering Waves that are coming to try and get her. But I believe this is where we might find the pink-haired girl for the first time and maybe recruit her on the team, maybe a part of the story. Not too sure. You can see her puppet friend right there as well. And what's very interesting about this scene, also, you could tell she's crying, but it intensifies the crying when you see the burning flames around. This is obviously the home being burned and everything going to chaos. Now, I like this scene a lot right here. So the chaos happened, and you have those little burning embers, and you have this person right here. Now, take a look. This individual has a ring. Very similar aesthetic to what we saw in that figure in the first scene where they had a ring. Very similar aesthetic, but their glove was red. We'll get to that here more in just a second. But you can see they're taking a look at this ember. It's almost as if this guy right here, which by the way, he's an absolute husbando, looks incredible character design wise, but I digress. It's as if he can see that particular place that just got destroyed, It's as if he can see it in that little ember right there, and he knows exactly what's going on. It's very interesting to me. But you can see that he has very similar aesthetics to our MC. He has this dragon-like design here. Now, the reason why I point this out in particular, and I'll get more of a full shot of this character so you can see, the reason why I bring this out, and look where he's at. It's almost as if he's in like an ethereal plane, like he's somewhere otherworldly that is spiritual, almost like a spiritual realm. And I bring that up is because in Chinese mythology, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but in Chinese mythology, apparently there are 4 guardians, one of them being an azure dragon. Here, let me go ahead and pull it up for you. So like I mentioned, there are 4 guardians apparently in Chinese mythology, and they represent the directions, so north, south, east, and west. Now, the azure dragon is also sometimes referred to as the blue-green dragon, green dragon, or blue dragon. And that really caught my attention because, once again, if you just take a look at this individual, he has a lot of blue and green features. He has the dragon symbol right here. I'm not saying that he is one of the guardians that we see here, but there are some interesting things to theorize about, which we'll go more into detail about here in just a second. But I almost half believe that that individual, that person, that gentleman may, as crazy as it sounds, may be the dragon, may be the guardian. And it says, and I mentioned this before, it says the guardians, so they may be referring to the other 3 that are out there. And there's another one, which is the phoenix, that I want to talk about here in just a second. But let's go ahead and move forward with what we have right now. Yeah, so Absolute Husbando, Giga Chad, love this character's design. Cannot wait to use him if he's playable, which I'm pretty sure he's playable. But one other thing I did want to point out as well is, one, this character looks like he has the gourd right here. If you look closely, it appears that he has the gourd right here, which is very interesting. Not only that, take a look at his right arm. I believe it would be his right arm. This appears to be the symbol that is on the other characters that we see in game that have the symbol. Now, I could be wrong. It may just be a part of his design, maybe a part of his gear that he has on. But in this, and I would have to see another image or another angle of him, but this just seems to be the symbol just much larger. And I don't know if this could be an instance to where the larger the symbol, the more powerful the character is. I don't think so, and I don't know if I would go that far, but it it's interesting to think about. Here, I'm not too sure what to make of this. Now, I do have a theory. These are what appears to be ghost-like figures. They're not fully put together. If you could take a look, they kind of look scattered, almost like they're in frames right now, but not fully entities that could walk this earth, right? Or walk wherever they are. But take a look here. Here's the black stone again. The black stone breaks. Okay, this is going really fast. I'm gonna have to slow this down. So the black stone breaks. We have this here. Now, obviously, these are the enemies. Now, initially, I was thinking the black stone broke, and now these enemies are like powering up or something, or they're getting stronger because it's like releasing the energy. No, now what I'm thinking, now that I've really looked into this extensively, I'm thinking that the black stone broke because somebody broke it, which we're going to get to here in just a second. Somebody destroyed it, and that just pissed these guys off, and it made them angry. So now they're glowing, ready to fight. And then we have this individual right here. So if you look closely, I'm going to go ahead and pause it for you. We'll see her more in just a second. Then she appears. I believe this scene, the way it's edited, is to show that she's the one that destroyed the black stone. And now she's ready to fight. And I think that this may be an instance to where there's multiple black stones maybe scattered around the world of Wuthering Waves, and we have to track them down and maybe destroy them. Not too sure, but that's kind of what it's leaning towards, in my opinion. So she destroyed one of them. Now she's ready to get down and get to business. So she's ready to fight now. So now she's in the thicket. And this cloud of smoke, I don't know if this is her cloud of smoke that she created. I'm also wondering if this might be the sound waves that you can't be in for too long. So she's fighting in here, but I'm thinking that this might be the cloud of smoke of the sound waves that if you're there for too long, it might start to take you over. And the reason being is, as you can see here, she's tearing it up. She's really destroying them. She looks fantastic, by the way, too. So she does another slice, but look at her eyes. Her eyes appear to be pretty normal. Now, of course, I understand very bad quality. So I can't really tell. I would need obviously a higher quality video to take a look at her screenshot, but right now it just appears as if her eyes are pretty normal, nothing really too crazy. But it seems as if the longer she stays in here, or the more people that she kills, the more she starts to evolve, the more she starts to develop abnormal abilities. And then we get this. Now, the reason why I state that, and here we go, that symbol once again, right? I pointed that out earlier, the symbol right here. Interesting. But look at her eyes. Now, this could just be the character design, and I'm all for it. I love the way the eyes look, but I don't think so. Look at the cracks in them. Don't they look very similar to the crack that was on the ground that we saw that was emanating that light to where that source of where all the, you know, enemies probably come from and where that black stone probably comes from? The eyes look very similar here. And what I'm starting to think is that I believe if they stay in the smoke, if they stay in that area for too long, they start to really evolve, but they start to change into the enemy. It might be a stretch, but that's just what I'm thinking. Now, this next scene we definitely have to talk about here. So if you take a quick look, I didn't catch this beforehand, but if you take a quick look, they have this scene, you're all caught up in her eyes. And then the transition here, do you see this thing coming out from the left-hand side? I didn't notice this before. This thing coming out from the left-hand side is like a creature. She does, you know, hands in the air, and then she does a slam. It looks like an ability that's happening, maybe a skill that she has, or maybe her ultimate. But then you see this creature. So she does a slam. Now, initially, I thought that the slam created the creature. No, you saw that creature come from the left-hand side over to the right-hand side, and it was almost like waiting here for her command. So take a look, left hand side, right hand side. You can see on the right hand side the creature's just here waiting, and then she does the command, the skill, whatever you want to call it. Now the creature is in movement. Now if you take a look at the way this creature looks, so here you go, it almost looks like the enemy. It almost looks like one of the enemies that she would be fighting, but no, it appears that this creature is working alongside her like a companion. But take a look at the way, okay, so this is, you know, not the greatest of shots, but look how this creature looks right here. This is a better look. Look how this creature or companion looks, and then let's take a look over here. Now, I'm not saying this is a one-to-one comparison, but look at the companion over there, and you cannot tell me that there aren't at least some similarities between these two, right? Look at the way his head looks. Look at the way he's shaped. It almost looks like a smaller form of what we just saw. Look at his head. Look at the shape of it. And then let's take a look at the companion of that girl's. It almost looks like an upgraded form, right? Or it could be that companion. I'm not too sure. Almost like you could level up the companion and it can be this thing eventually. Let me know what you guys think about that. Now in this scene, we have the Guardian here that we saw in that teaser when you go to the website. You have the Guardian here. Now what kind of makes my theory earlier slightly fall apart is that you see the light fading from the dragon's eyes, and then it almost appears as if the dragon dies. And with the dragon dying, now the earth is starting to fall apart, which means the enemies can now really burst forth and take over because there's no guardians. Now we have this crow here, and the crow's flying, and take a look at these spikes that are flying up. They look just like the black stone. I think the black stone is everything, is once again what drives all of these bad things to happen. The black stone's the energy source that makes this happen. We transition over here, and then we got the man that we've been seeing since the very beginning. Now if you take a quick look at the moon, it's just a very, you know, kind of like a Easter egg. You have like the Wuthering wave, sound wave symbol right here on the outside. Now, my theory earlier, so we had the Azure Dragon, which was the Husbando from earlier. Now, my other theory is that the other Guardian, which is the Phoenix, may be this individual right here. That might be a stretch. Could be, this Guardian went rogue or went bad. I'm kind of not too sure on, but he does kind of have like a Phoenix aesthetic to him a little bit. You can see in the Raven's eyes or the Crow's eyes, you can see the boss. I'm gonna just call it the boss right there. So the Raven or the Crow can see the boss, and this leads me to believe that this Crow or this Raven can almost like transmit what he sees to his owner, which we'll get to here in just a second, which is this figure right here that we saw from the very beginning. And once again, take a look at the ring. Take a look at the figure's aesthetics in terms of the design and what they're going for. You can see another ring right here on his other hand, but look right here. Doesn't that look very similar to like the symbols that we've been seeing? I think this figure is obviously very important, but maybe what our characters are or where our characters are from, the main characters, I'm not too sure. Not too sure. Anyways, guys, that is the full trailer breakdown. That's everything that I saw that I found to be interesting. Once again, if you guys saw some more stuff in there, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know, what you think about the theory. And I'm just super excited, guys. There's a lot of information happening for Wuthering Waves. Cannot wait to see some official gameplay. Should be happening here relatively soon. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. Remember to stand out, be different, have fun, go further beyond in everything that you do. My name is Cody. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.